Hi, I'm Pastor Rhonda.
And I'm Pastor Seth.
You're listening to Growing Hope,
Living Faith.
Welcome back to Growing Hope, Living Faith. We're so glad you're listening. And guess what?
What's that?
This is episode number 52.
52.
Can you believe it?
Unreal.
No, these weeks are passing by. And I missed recording last week.
I did, and we do need to apologize. This is totally on me, not on Pastor Rhonda at all. But I have been slacking on putting information out for us. I don't even know if I announced or I put anything on our Facebook page about episode 51. Man, life has just been crazy, I know, for both of us.
It has.
And which
You're
is good.
crazy.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's good. You know, don't get worried out there. I know sometimes when you say people get worried, but it's been good.
Especially when we're gone for the weekend. And I just did a ladies retreat on our Georgia district, and I had to leave so early in the week. And so we had a little window to get it recorded, and I just couldn't make it happen.
It didn't happen, no. Mm-mm. I'm working 9-hour days on Monday through Thursday. And so by the time I get off work, you know, and I mean, we're working on we're recording right now on a Tuesday night. And put a little over a 9-hour day in today. But hey, I'm excited to be able to record and all that kind of stuff. So we do apologize for that. Yes. Now, women's retreat, heard was amazing. Saw pictures, all that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit.
Fun.
I mean, I know I've heard the stories, but tell us just a little condensed version about this week.
Well, it was really kind of neat because on Saturday morning, I was 2 seconds away from doing this really fun thing where we ran around the sanctuary taking selfies with people that either we knew or didn't know or whatever. And it was going to be a lot of fun. So I was just about to announce that. And we had someone to come in the back of the tabernacle there and ask us to pray because his grandson had been hit by a car and we dropped everything and we started praying, and it was just like the presence of the Lord was so real, and we moved into an official prayer time, and people just started responding, going to the altar, and Pastor Lindsay Huggins of Sandersville Church of the Nazarene, she just kept singing, and the Lord was just there in a very special kind of way, and I know He moved my heart, and He did a lot for a lot of people, and I'm still on cloud nine. I still haven't come back to reality. So listen, you would have loved this. Yeah, I had to rent a vehicle to get all the stuff down there. And, I've got like a small vehicle because I'm short. And, so I've got this little car. So I rented, my son-in-law works for Enterprise, and he helped me get a standard SUV. So I had this big, humongous, huge Tahoe.
Oh, nice. Those are really nice.
Yeah, it was like a 2023. Yeah. And, I couldn't hardly drive it. So it was packed all the way up. But see, my dilemma was if I had my seat up so high so that I could see over the end of the car, then my foot couldn't reach the pedal.
Did the pedals not move? A lot of times their pedals will move on those cars.
Well, I couldn't figure it out. Are you kidding me? And so, and then I felt like I had to pick up my whole leg to touch the brake.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I felt like I was driving an 18-wheeler.
That's awesome. But you need to go back to the other story because you didn't finish the story about the kid who got hit by the car.
Yes, that was the
People
best part.
I'm sorry. What happened to the boy?
I have ADD. Well, the good news is God healed him. Yes. And wow, it was amazing because we kept getting these updates, or Julie did, Pastor Kyle's wife, Pastor Kyle, our district superintendent, he was sending her updates. And so she read all the updates. And it was like, he's being seen now, and they're checking for broken bones, and they're doing all this. And so at the service, the very last one said that they sent him home with no broken bones.
That's awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and he was unconscious when they got there, you said, and for sure had potentially a broken leg.
Yeah, they were sure that his leg was broken and he was unconscious. And, when you get airlifted to Emory in Atlanta, that's a big deal. So we are just praising the Lord. And I'm sorry I left you hanging on that. I have ADD. I was just thinking of all the wonderful things that happened.
That's awesome.
And God just met us in so many ways. But, that's a real big boost of faith. And we did have a healing service on Saturday night. And, I tried to explain, I don't understand why God heals sometimes and how God heals through medicine and through doctors. And then sometimes God doesn't heal at all this side of heaven.
Sure.
And, It's really interesting, but we still ask. We still have faith to ask him to heal. And sure. It's great. There was a sweet lady that was there that she nearly passed away a couple of weeks ago, and she's in, probably the end stages. But she was there. She made the effort to be there. She came with her oxygen and a private nurse and sat on the front row, was there even for Sunday school. And I thought, wow, you can't get some people to get out of bed on Sunday mornings. I'm not trying to put guilt trips on anybody. But, it was just really beautiful thing that she just wanted to be there, and she made the effort, and God blessed her a lot.
That's awesome. So very good. Yeah, my wife was out of town this last weekend, so I had the kids all to myself, and so that's my excuse for not putting any information out this last Saturday, and so I do apologize about that. And but yeah, so that's good. Well, Thanksgiving is coming up, so this will be coming out on the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is always a great time of the year. So you have big plans?
I can't think about it yet.
That's right.
Because I have a big songwriting co-writing retreat, and I won't get home till Sunday afternoon. So I guess I won't even think about Thanksgiving until Monday. But I did see where my daughter, we have a private Facebook group just for my family. Yeah. And I think my daughter has stepped up to the plate and has started a menu. And I just have to get my house clean.
Nice. That's awesome.
Everybody's come to my house. But yeah, it's always bittersweet, when you have holidays, because Eric's parents always came to our house too. Yeah. And now they're no longer with us. And my grandmother, of course, your grandmother's passed away as well. And it's just hard, because you have those memories, but you keep going, and you remember the good times, and of course eat too much. And
Absolutely. So yeah, I'll be spending time with a lot of family. So I got some family coming in, and then we're gonna go see some of Morgan's cousins that she hasn't seen in 5 years. I think it's been about 5 years she hasn't seen them. So that'll be good, but we'll have to find a moment to be able to record next week so that we can have one come out hopefully the next Saturday as well.
While you're doing all your Christmas shopping. Are you a Black Friday shopper?
No, not at all. I'm not a shopper just in general. I'm very much know what I'm there to get, go grab it, and then turn around and leave. And
that's usually me, but I do like Black Friday deals. And so if we're looking for something in particular, we will comb through the newspapers. I remember one year we were so desperate for silverware. When your kids get to be teenagers, you'll find silverware in trash cans and under beds and all kinds of crazy places. So we were down to nothing. And this was back in the day. This was before your time, but you had to actually go to the store and wait for them to open. And you remember that?
I've stayed up all night waiting for a store to open up. And then once you get in and get what you want there, then you got to rush to the next door to be able to get what you want there.
Well, that's what we did. And we were at Kohl's, man, and we got that silverware for little to nothing. So we like to do that. And so I guess we'll do some of that.
There's a lot of good deals to be had out there.
Yeah.
So, but Cyber Monday, I think, has really kind of hurt that a little bit too. Right. A lot of people are doing online now.
Yes.
And they don't even venture out on that stuff anymore. So.
Maybe we should stop and pray for all the UPS drivers.
That's right. We know several.
FedEx. Yeah, we'll have a rough season.
Absolutely. So it is Thanksgiving season. And as we were kind of looking at lectionary, the passages, some really, really cool passages. There's the passage of Deborah, which is a really, really just fascinating story in the Bible. And I'm thankful for passages like this and scripture like this to remind us the reality of women in ministry and the importance of women leaders. And so thankful for that. And so go check that out. We're not going to be reading that one today. Unless we want to. But I don't know if we'll be reading that one. We're going to be looking at the gospel passage for today because I really feel like it does line up pretty well with kind of the Thanksgiving theme. And, when you think of Thanksgiving, I'm just going to pop this question to you. When you think of Thanksgiving, what does that elicit you to think about? Like, what comes to your mind when you think of Thanksgiving?
Gratitude. The things that God has just blessed me with. And I know I'm thankful for the big things, my family and those kind of things. And I am so grateful. But I also try to sit and spend some time on all the little things that I take for granted. I make lists like little things like cotton, it's like in vanilla. I remember putting that on my list one year, and I love the feel of cotton, and I thought, man, what if there wasn't any cotton, or just the scent of vanilla, and, just little things. I try to make a list of big things and little things, but last week, I think it was, I was looking out the window, and I was just so overcome with just the beauty that I could see out my window, the trees and the sun streaming in. And I think sometimes we just take so much for granted because God didn't have to do all that. He could have just said, here's a world. He could have made it black and white, and that wasn't, even that would be gracious. But my goodness, Thanksgiving to me is definitely just taking that time of being grateful.
So good. And I think that's so important when it comes to this holiday, is that remembering that we remember all of these things that we should truly be thankful for. But I think a large part of kingdom living is, yes, we do remember. We remember the things that God has provided for us, that he gives us, that he journeys with us, that he's the God that doesn't leave us alone. You remember these things, but if we leave them in a state of remembrance, then I feel like we're missing the point of Thanksgiving on a very, very deep level. And kingdom, I think, calls us to something much, much, much deeper. And Thanksgiving, yes, it is remembering. It is all of those things. And I know we agree on this, from the get-go. But if we just remember and leave it there, then we're only, I think, truly understanding and truly having Thanksgiving half the way. Thanksgiving should push us to action.
Right.
It should always drive us to this place of, man, if you really are thankful, if you really have this feeling of thankfulness in your life, it should push you to some sort of action.
Right.
And that's the call of the gospel.
Truly, we're blessed to be a blessing. We're not to hoard all these things that God has given us. And I'm a firm believer in generosity and giving. And God always replaces that seed when we're generous.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how his economy works. But we are blessed to bless others.
It's good. Well, the Matthew story kind of hits on that, I think, a little bit. And it's a passage that a lot of people may be very familiar with. And, obviously there's some slavery and stuff in here, which at its core, I think, is problematic. But, we'll look past all of those things. Maybe that's probably not a conversation
for this
podcast today. Maybe down the road we can talk about that a little bit. But it's a really, really, really cool passage. And like I said, you've probably heard it many times, but let's approach it maybe with this mentality of truly thankfulness. And let's see how these guys respond. I don't know if you want to read it or if you want me to read it, I can.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll read it. So it's going to be Matthew 25, and it's 14 through 30. So it's not short, so hang in there. But it reads like this. For it is as if a man going on a journey summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability, and then he went away. The one who had received the 5 talents went off at once and traded with them, and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. And after a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents. And his master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents. And his master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And then the one who received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not scatter your seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master replied, You wicked and lazy slave, you knew, did you, that I reap where I did not sow, and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one with the 10 talents. For to all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have shall be taken away. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Wow. Goodness.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, the first thing that sticks out to me is they all have talents.
Yeah.
And they didn't get to say, give me, this is what I want. Give me a lot. Give me a little. It wasn't up to them, but they were given and they received what they were given.
Right. Yeah. From the master. And man, once again, imagine the joy, right? And the thankfulness that all of these would have had. And I think you can see it within all of them. Like, obviously the guy who has 5, there's this thankfulness. There's this, I'm sure it's this feeling of, oh man, my master trusts me, right? With something. He's given me something to be able to be able to hold while he is gone. Like, there's this trust, like I said, and that's what it says, that the master entrusted his servants. Like, there's this trust that is going, and so it's going back and forth. So there's this feeling, I imagine, has to be really, really good, that your master would trust you this much, that he is going to give you some of his property to be able to hold while he goes away.
Right.
Which is so key and so huge, I think, in understanding, this mentality of Thanksgiving. But the question is what do we do with the trust? What do we do with the things and the property that the master essentially gives? Well, we see, I think, several things played out within this row. Obviously, the first one had 5, went and was able to trade them, and he was able to trade up, right? He got to 5 more. And so I was able to bring that back to the master, and obviously the master is like, yes, that's great. I've entrusted with you a lot, and so therefore I'm going to give back. And then the same thing with the second one, right? That he goes and he gets 2. And so these 2, they could have had this feeling, right? Where it's been like, oh man, I'm so thankful for the master, so thankful for what he's done, that he has entrusted me. And so they very much could have made the same decision as the last servant.
Right.
That we're going to allow this feeling to stay right here, and we're going to allow this feeling to be the thing that is it, and it's going to end here. But they chose to act, and it was because of their actions that the master's property, I guess, or his entrusted treasure was able to grow, which is really a cool mentality, and and a really, really cool thought, I think, on such a deep level.
I think so too. And I'm just thinking again, like the person with the 2 didn't whine and say, why didn't I get 5? But he took what he had. Yep. And man, that's a lesson in and of itself, because, you can look at other people and they just seem to be so multi-talented in so many ways. They have so much more either like talents and gifts or material, blessings than we do. And it's so easy to get your eyes off of what God does for you, and you get your eyes on somebody else. But I love that this person didn't do that, but they invested with what they had. And man, that's a huge lesson. If we would just invest what God gives us and keep our eyes off of everybody else, comparison will kill you.
Oh, on a very, very deep level. And that's the world that we live in.
Right.
On such a deep level, that's the culture we live in. Especially with social media and all those things, it's hard not to compare lives and all of those kind of things that we have going on.
And that's not the big part of the story, but
it's not.
It just sticks out to me, when you obviously you have one that's got 5 and one that's got 2.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have this one who, like I said, I can only imagine the feeling of like, oh man, the master trusts me with his property. It's a great feeling, and I imagine there was a lot of thankfulness. But he had no action after he was entrusted with the reality of what the master had given him. There was no action beyond that, and he chose to bury it, and he chose not to. Like the master said, even if you had put it in the bank, I would have got more when I got back. But you weren't even willing to do that, because that's action, right? That is a little bit of action, essentially, that happens. And it's so easy, I think, once again, for us to come through seasons like Thanksgiving and to have all of these great feelings and to be, thankful and say that we're thankful and to, have this list of things, which is great. It's not saying that we shouldn't do that. Right. But man, if we aren't diligent in taking that next step and saying, man, look how good and faithful God's been. Like, look how awesome he is, and look what he gives us and provides for us. And then we're not taking that blessing and then continuing to push forward and say, all right, now that I see this and I realize that, yes, this is God and what God has done, man, now what am I going to do with this? What action should be coming or flowing from this, so that it's not that I can just take what God's given me and sit on it, but man, I can really, like you said, be a blessing. Take God's blessing and then bless the world. Because, I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast. That goes all the way back to Genesis, the call of Abraham. I'm going to bless you so that you can go bless other people.
Yeah, and did you notice his excuses? I mean, I wonder where he gets this. I knew you were a harsh man. Like, how did he know that? I mean,
that's good.
It's just kind of like he's just making excuses. I'm trying to find what verse that was. Where'd it go?
Masters 24. I know that you are a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid.
Yeah. That's a whole little sermon in and of itself, too. I was afraid. I mean, even if he were telling the truth, I mean, fear is a liar. I mean, you know, I think sometimes we get our eyes on everybody else, and then we're afraid to step out in faith with what God has given us, you know. But this whole idea, though, of him being harsh and all that, it's just kind of an excuse to me.
Sure.
But the fear, I can definitely understand that, but it's not right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's so easy to get complacent, right? To get complacent and to get comfortable and to, like I said, you know, you said that, and my mind immediately went to just the church today, you know, especially I think the American church. Like, I think this, if we're not careful, this can be very, very scary, because it's easy sometimes, I think, for people to get this picture of God or of the master, that the master is this scary person who is raining down judgment, who is there to, hey, if you slip up, then he's going to really, really get you. Right. And I think, unfortunately, the church has really created this God by some of our theology and our thought processes, and we've chosen to focus on those things instead of, once again, who God really, really is. And it's not, like I said, the master says, like, even if you're just taking it to the bank, you know, like, even if you just would have done something with nothing, you know, with what I gave you, man, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But you were complacent. You were scared. You chose to be lazy. You chose not to do anything with what I had given you, man. And because of that, man, we're going to take what you have. We're going to give it to the one who has, and, you know, we're going to send you away.
Well, verse 25, I think is so sad. You hid your talent in the ground. How many times do we hide our talents? That's so sad to me. But you're right. I mean, that's what he says to him. Because you were not faithful with what I did give you, then I'm going to trust the person that I gave the most and give it to them. That's
good. Yeah. You know, just kind of going through theology classes and all that, you know, they essentially say there's three things that you can really give back to God. And God, I think there's three things that God really does desire from us. And they all start with T's. One is your talent. So the gifts and the abilities that God does give you. Your time. So how are you going to honor God with your time that you have? And then he cares about your treasure. What are you going to do with your treasure? The things that he really does give you. And like I said, I think all of those line up with this mentality, and I think could be interchanged with this word talent, with this idea. Now, obviously, a talent would have been physical money. It would have been physically something. But I think all of those, I think, could easily be interchanged within this reality that God does desire our time. He desires our talents. He desires our treasure. And he does give us all of those things. All of those things are gifts from him that he does entrust us with. Man, so what are we going to do with our time? What are we going to do with our talents? And what are we going to do with our treasure that we have? And are we going to choose to sit on those things or hide them, like you said? Or are we going to be able, once again, be able to utilize those things to be a light on a hill that points people to the reality of who this God is and what this God is really all about?
Right. But Scripture also tells us that we are to offer ourselves as a living sacrifice. I mean, these are gifts, but they're kind of loans. I mean, he gives us the breath in our lungs. He gives us everything that we need, but yet we don't surrender completely and give ourselves back to him. And that's what he wants. He, because we're not our own. We're bought with a price.
Yeah. It is so easy to get caught once again just in this feeling, and we can look around and we can say, man, look how God has blessed me, and we get so caught up, and it'll give us the warm fuzzies, and it might even put chills and give you goosebumps. But man, if you're just looking around saying, man, look how God has blessed me, and you're not saying, man, God has blessed me, how can I bless others? Then I think we're totally missing the reality of what Thanksgiving truly is. Because Thanksgiving, yes, it is a feeling. Yes, it is an emotion. Yes. But man, true Thanksgiving leads us to action. It's got to lead us to action. And if it doesn't, then once again,
we're missing.
We're missing.
Well, I mean, we know what happens because he says, I'll take what you have and give it to somebody else. I mean, that I remember hearing that as a teenager, and that would scare me to death. I would think, oh, well, what if he were to take my voice away? Or what if, that you start getting all those little ideas in your mind. But we do have to be faithful, or he will.
Yeah. So, I think that's an important thought for us. And so maybe as we're entering into this Thanksgiving season, this Thanksgiving holiday, and obviously Advent is right around the corner. Right around the corner. And so, man, maybe that's the thought that really needs to be on the forefront of our mind in a season that has been commercialized on such a deep level. How do we really show our appreciation to God this Thanksgiving season? What does it mean for you and your family? What does it mean for not just you to take this journey, but for you to bring others along with you in this season of action, or what should be action? And those are some very, very important questions. And it's, you don't have to look far. You can go places and you can see how this has been lived out, I think, on such a deep level. And it's being lived out by people who probably don't profess God, maybe, and but it's also being lived out, obviously, by people of faith as well. And so, man, read stories, find those stories, and be encouraged by those stories. For me, there is something about when you surround yourself or put yourself around some people who are really living, who've really taken this concept and really kind of taken it to the next step, where they're living this Thanksgiving on such a deep level, whereas God's blessing, it's not about them at all. It's about, man, how do I bless others? Man, there's something that it's contagious, and it spreads to me, and it gets me excited, and it lights my fire. And so I think it's so important that we find people, that are living this, that are doing this on such a deep level. And do it together. Have conversations. Bring a couple families together and say, man, how can we bless others? God's blessed us. How can we bless others? And like I said, this is a great season to do it. Like, maybe it's this is a great season to serve at like soup kitchens and community kitchens and all that stuff, or to do a lot of those things. But how do you extend this beyond just, all right, we're in the season of Thanksgiving, we're going to do this during Thanksgiving, and how do we begin to make this a lifestyle?
Right.
Because that's where it's so important.
Right. Well, we certainly hope that you have a great Thanksgiving season, just like everything that we said, but we just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you, and we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or any comments or concerns or anything, prayer requests, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to pray for you. We have email at growinghopelivingfaith@gmail.com, and we have a Facebook page.
Yeah, Facebook is Growing Hope Living Faith Podcast. So we'd love for you to be able to reach out to us there as well.
Yes, and we'll be better about posting.
Yeah, sorry about that. We'll try our hardest.
No, it's my fault too. But yeah, anyway, we are so grateful that you've listened. And do us a favor, tell someone else about our podcast and share.
Yep. We love you all. Grace and peace. God bless, and bye-bye.